Welcome to the On the Air podcast, a companion to On the Air magazine, a bi-monthly magazine from ARRL for beginner to intermediate ham radio licensees. I'm your host and the editor of On the Air magazine, Becky Schoenfeld, W1BXY. Every month, the On the Air podcast extends material found in On the Air magazine to help you learn about the many things the ham radio service and hobby has to offer. The On the Air podcast is sponsored by ICOM for the love of ham radio. Welcome to the May 2024 episode. As many hams know, May is traditionally the month when Dayton Hamvention is held. This year, it's May 17th through 19th in Xenia, Ohio. Sponsored by the Dayton Amateur Radio Association, Hamvention is the largest of the ham radio conventions, drawing tens of thousands of attendees each year. ARRL, of course, has a presence at each Hamvention, not only with a large exhibitor booth, but also with a slate of forum presentations on topics that will challenge and inspire hams no matter where they are in their ham radio journey. Here today to tell us more about this year's forums is ARRL Director of Marketing and Innovation, Bob Inderbitson, NQ1R. Welcome, Bob.
Hi, Becky. It's great to be here.
Good to have you here. So this year's Dayton Hamvention is a bit special because Hamvention 2024 is hosting the 2024 ARRL National Convention. So what exactly is a national convention, and what can attendees expect from a national convention this year that they might not see or experience at a regular Hamvention?
Sure, Becky. Like most years, ARRL always has a strong presence at Dayton Hamvention. But because it's a national convention this year, we've rolled up our sleeves to do some extra special things. Forums, we've really attracted a great slate of presenters, offering presentations from operating to technical, things to get more active in amateur radio. We've thrown in some extra exhibits this year, including a youth rally. And because it's a national convention, we expect that there'll be people who don't go to Dayton Hamvention every year from distant parts of the country and even around the world who will make this year the destination.
Okay, so we may get some additional turnout this year because it's the national.
Almost always happens, yep.
That's great. So, so for the forums, every year at Hamvention there are a lot of forums on many of the diverse interests that folks can get into in ham radio, and a subset of those forums are ARRL forums. So it looks like ARRL is presenting a really full slate of forums on all 3 days of the show, starting on Friday the 17th and continuing all the way through Sunday. I'm seeing some good technical content being presented, some interesting stuff about operating, and some of it is geared toward new or less experienced hams, which of course is On the Air's audience. So what kind of forum offerings can those folks look forward to at the show?
Yeah, the key this year is the theme that ARRL is bringing to its national convention, which is Be Radioactive. And so in the context of being radioactive, we want to offer a couple of different tracks of activity to help a newcomer, but also somebody who's been an active ham for a long time to try some different things. One of those, for instance, is a presentation called How to Control Your Ham Shack with a Node-RED Dashboard. And that's being presented by Kyle Craig, whose call sign is Alpha Alpha Zero Zulu. Anyone who knows Kyle knows that he's active on YouTube. He's got a great channel. He's going to talk about a technique for remote enabling a station and building out a dashboard to do that using a visual programming language called Node-RED. It has libraries that exist that are relatively easy to access by radio amateurs, and Kyle's going to show how you can develop your own Node-RED dashboard to integrate your transmitter, your rotors, your station control from a power standpoint, all these different aspects of remote enabling a station. It might seem advanced, but the idea at Dayton Hamvention is to be inspired by trying something new and just experiencing what it takes to build a Node-RED workflow is one way that you can get more active. A lot of hams who are used to using Raspberry Pi have started to familiarize themselves with Node-RED and even programming in Linux. And so this is a great way to develop some new skills that bring amateur radio computer networking and the integration of a station remotely into life. Another presentation, our own CEO, David Minsters, decided to get in on the action, and he's presenting on gaming the amateur radio modes. David has been very active on FT8 since 2017, but most recently he's really started to dive into what it takes to sort of be an operating leader in that space. And how do you ensure that you're ticking off the box in Logbook of the World by working some new entities? How do you work the rare de-expeditions that always seem to be there, but you feel like your station's just not working those? David's really learned a lot about the idiosyncrasies of WSJT. He has a very modest station at home. He uses 100 watts in a wire, like many of us. But he's really working some incredible DX on FT8. And so we call that gaming the mode. And so David's going to offer some tips and techniques to understand how to be a leader in that space.
Great. It sounds like that might offer some ways for people to challenge themselves.
Yeah, again, it's one thing to be an operator on a particular mode like FT8, but it's another one to really start to say, how is this really working, and how can I, as a modest station, work some of those rare stations that are out there and break the pileups. And David's doing that every day, and and he's happy to share that experience with others through his presentation.
Cool. So a few of these forums sound like they might shake things up. For instance, Kristen McIntyre, K6WX's forum on ground. Ground is a myth.
Yeah.
Ground, is so important to hams. So I think that sounds really good.
Yeah, and it's sometimes an obstacle for some hams to set up their station. They pain what type of ground system that they're going to install at their station. And so I think Kristen's presentation is going to strike a balance between, that ground is something that we tend to, as radio amateurs, in our station design, but she also wants to thwart some of the myths out there that maybe make some of us overthink how we incorporate the consideration of ground at our stations. So I think we'll have some fun hearing Kristen. ARRL has a number of great resources to help people overcome the Achilles heel of, do I drive ground rods in the backyard here? How do I tie my existing ground in my home into this? Is it going to help me for receiving? Is it just for safety? There's a lot that goes into it, and the idea here is to get people to start to look at some of the resources that ARRL has on grounds, and just do it.
So going back to the technician audience, I know we have a lot of technicians who read on the air. I understand that John Jobin McAuliffe from the lab has a forum that is geared more toward them.
Yeah, John has put together 4 sort of entry-level technical areas that an amateur radio operator can experience. One of them is building a CW encoder decoder, and it'll provide the user with some experience using the Arduino platform, and so plus you end up with something fun to use that's very practical. A Pi-Star digital hotspot. That Pi-Star's been very popular to get on the digital voice modes. An Arden video feed. Arden is an incredible network of mesh networked equipment, and there's an opportunity for amateurs to transmit data and video on that, and John provides some resources for doing that. And then also Node-RED as well. John's put together some inspiring ways that you can start to program in Node-RED, build some workflows that can help control the station. There's another presenter as well on POTA. Let's see, Parks on the Air will be presented by Michael Martina, KB9VBR. Michael is a YouTuber who also enjoys POTA operating quite a bit, Parks on the Air.
Yep.
He's going to talk about some of the ways that he's activated parks and some hints and tips on antenna and stations that you can bring out with you to the parks, tips on logging, tips on activating parks uniquely, and that ought to be a lot of fun as well. Parks on the Air has had an incredible influence on the amateur radio community. ARRL has a book called the Parks on the Air book, and Michael's got some content in that book as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Poto's a lot of fun, and there are so many ways to do it, so it'll be great to hear him talk about how he does it.
So if you're looking to get involved in amateur radio contesting and award hunting, ARRL Radio Sport Manager Bart Yonke, W9JJ, and Contest Branch Manager Paul Bork, N1SFE, will both be presenting on Sunday with an introduction to amateur radio contesting and some information about the various ARRL contests that happen throughout the year. And summertime is a great time to start working on antennas and trying things outdoors as we head towards the fall contest season. So the timing of Bart and Paul's presentation is perfect for someone who's never thrown in their call in an amateur radio contest before.
So earlier you mentioned a youth rally. Tell me about that. So this is another ARRL sponsored collection of activities at the show?
Yeah, so a lot of us in amateur radio are worried about the next generation. What's going to happen to amateur radio? Who's going to replace us down the line? And there is a thriving network of amateur radio young people all over the United States, and Dayton draws some of them out. And so what we decided to do was be deliberate in that. And so we gathered together some of the young youth leaders in amateur radio and some of our collegiate amateur radio community as well, and we've put together a youth rally. It's been organized by Steve Goodgame, K5ATA. Steve is the ARRL Education and Learning Manager. It's all day Saturday, May 18th. Young people it's really targeted for young people ages 11 to 21. If they pre-register between now and Hamvention on the ARRL website, they'll get a t-shirt for the day, a tote bag, a youth rally lanyard. And the idea is that we're going to have a lot of focus on young people on that Saturday during Hamvention. What are they going to be doing? They're going to be starting the day at Carol Perry's Youth Forum. Carol organizes an incredible youth forum every year that runs a couple of hours on Saturday morning. Everyone will start there hearing some of the young presenters talk about what they're enjoying in amateur radio and what they're doing. And then we'll transition after lunch into Forum Building 3, where Steve Goodgame has organized a number of activities, including a sprint, the opportunity to work a parachute mobile station, some hands-on operating, including a satellite operating station, and just some getting to know you, some icebreakers to meet some other young people in amateur radio. This is the year for young hams to get to Dayton Hamvention for sure, with the focus of the 2024 ARRL Youth Rally.
Fantastic. That sounds great. So is there anything else that we need to know about what ARRL is offering at the National this year?
Yeah, the heartbeat or centerpiece of ARRL's participation will be our large exhibit area in Building 2. And there's a lot going on there this year. We have a youth lounge and a focus for the education area. The ARRL Laboratory will be operating a technical information service exhibit where people can meet members of the ARRL Lab and some of our volunteers and ask questions and talk to them about anything technical that's on their mind that the lab ordinarily helps members with all year long. They'll have up close and in-person assistance from the lab right there. The ARRL Development and Foundation will be there, which means there'll be experts there to talk about scholarship opportunities and club grants. And we'll have a big store, so anyone looking for some of their ARRL swag or the latest ARRL publications and field day gear will find that that's all there as well. So it's going to be a hub of activity and a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, I need a field day sticker for sure.
Absolutely.
So thanks again to Bob Inderbitzen and Q1R for joining us today. You can get more information about Dayton Hamvention, including ticket information at hamvention.org, and more information about ARRL's Hamvention exhibit and sponsored activities at arrl.org/ARRL-Expo. The On the Air podcast will be back again in June. 73.